Hello, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good whatever, wherever you are. Today we are on Speed Gaming 5, where we are bringing you a Link to the Past Randomizer Week 3 match between the Swedish Rubbers and Les French Canadians. Playing for the Swedish Rubbers, we have Amarith. Playing for Les French Canadians, we have AsclepiosRod. And calling this race today, I am Reg. Joining me is Hammer. So Hammer, we're playing Randomizer this week. Why don't you tell people about that?
So Randomizer will probably go down as one of my favorite types of game modifications to watch or to com. Not so much to play. We have quite a few different things going on here. The main thing that people are going to be curious about is what are the boss shuffle. And the boss shuffle we're using is full. So what that means is that out of all the bosses that exist, all 10 of them, we are going to have one of 7 different bosses and 2 of the other 3. Now, obviously, unless this seed becomes fully terrible, we're not going to necessarily see all of those bosses. But it'll be nice to know that if you run across 2 Moldorms, or 2 Mothulas, or 2 Armos Knights, you won't be seeing them again for the rest of the race. As for enemy shuffle, it's just a full-on enemy shuffle. Things can be wherever. The funniest part about that is if you're picking up or dashing through a bush, you could get something like a Beamos that just pops up and says hello. Those are generally the funnier moments for Randomizer. It also does change a little bit of routing, like in certain situations, you might not need the bow to beat Eastern, and stuff like that. So it's going to change stuff based upon, it's going to be a little more fluid in terms of what our runners may or may not need, depending on what bosses are where. But for that, we're going to have to kind of look into it itself. I do believe we're getting ready to roll, so here we go.
Yep, got 2 runners starting in Link's house. Got a red boomerang right away. That's actually a super nice item to have, because even if you can't necessarily fight back, boomerang stuns a lot of things and makes things a lot less threatening.
Yep, it will also, hopefully sooner rather than later, give us something of a knowledge in terms of what our stun prize is.
Yeah, here's a map check. That was a red pendant at Hera, a red crystal at Eastern, regular crystal at Desert. And yeah, just to revisit what you were saying earlier about how this impacts the logic, you mentioned no need for a bow necessarily in Eastern Palace, as A-Rod finds a chain chomp. That's one of the less fun parts of Randomizer.
Oh yeah, there's another huge thing to consider here, and that's that dark rooms are not fun.
Yeah, even the most confident of runners will occasionally shy away from Randomizer dark rooms without knowing what they're going to find. But anyways, revisiting the logic a bit, you did mention before the bow in Eastern. That requirement is totally out the window. So you need to be able to kill the boss, which we won't know what items that needs until we get there, because you could need 2 rods to kill a Trinex in there. But in general, the rest of the dungeon, those red Igors are gone, and it's the same story with Palace of Darkness. The red mimics on the bow lock side are gone, but that dungeon will still require a bow to shoot that eye statue to reach the boss. So that's the only bow requirement in Randomizer.
Yep, not to mention it'll be nice to have it for Armos, but that obviously is not a logical requirement.
Nope. This single red boomerang we have is a logical requirement, though. For Armos specifically, at least.
No one wants to think too hard on doing a boomerang Armos, though. That's not fun.
Yeah, 48 times 6 is what? 296, I believe? Sure, let's do it.
No, don't do that. Oh, well, there's flippers. Let's detour and do that first.
Yeah, that's a solid find. It actually opens up more locations. Also, chat's talking about a Ganon a little bit. Neither Aghanim, like Aga 1, Aga 2, and Ganon, none of those 3 bosses are included in the shuffle. Those will all be guaranteed vanilla.
And actually, this could be a terrifying room right here. Oh, that's not too bad.
A-Rod lost 2 bombs, though. That's pretty big in the early game. Hey, that's 2 different gloves in Kakariko Villages. Amarith does get bombs out of a chest. Had to leave the one chest behind in Blind's hut on account of no bombs, though.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Amarith decides to head back in that direction.
I think coming from the well, I think you do it and you do it immediately. And yeah, that's what Amarith's doing here. So not going to be missing out on that check. And whether it's good or bad, it's just a peace of mind.
Yeah, you really don't want to be leaving something this early on. It's never going to leave your mind.
Yeah, especially when you were like 10 feet away from it. And that sand card is not progression, but not going to say no to an extra container at the start of the game.
Especially not with Randomizer, because that's another thing. Randomizer makes the overworld a bit more dangerous in the light world in general. Obviously, you can have nice seeds where the enemies around here aren't bad, but you can also have some stuff that does a boatload of damage just right off the bat.
Yep, we already saw an example of that with that chain chomp in the Uncle Tunnel. Like, that was just an outright death, completely out of the blue.
Yeah, that big old golden spike that's just chilling out in front of Link's house isn't very pleasant either.
Yep. Good news on that is that all of the damage tables for both enemy health and damage they do to Link are the same as the vanilla game. So those big spikes are going to be the single heart of damage that they usually do. And some of the other less powerful enemies will similarly could make a lot of rooms a lot easier than normal.
Yeah, that's a very fair point, especially particular later dungeons like Turtle Rock and Misery Mire. Those tend to be a bit kinder than they are. Obviously, we're talking about tendencies here, because you could still get a boatload of chain chomps or something similar, but in general, it works out in the runner's favor.
Yeah. It's just, especially in the early game, that overworld that you mentioned. Actually, interestingly, we do have the runners on sync here checking the race game. The only difference being A-Rod took an early visit to the Uncle Tunnel, was not able to get both items out of there, I don't think, on account of that chain chomp, but hard sync coming out.
Yeah, and with the mitts, we know exactly where they're going. This is another one of those rooms that could get terrifying, so get ready for perhaps a little bit of fun here.
Ooh, this is a little ugly, but that boomerang makes that guard not an issue. Whoops. This room is actually a lot more terrifying than it looks, but A-Rod gets through.
It's really all about that green parabomber just sitting there.
Yeah, that's what did Amarith in the first time, but knowing what's coming the second time, no trouble. But not taking that key to the Dark Cross at this point, not wanting to do that in the dark at all.
I mean, also, given that we only have bombs for actual offensive weaponry, we have no idea what the key rat is going to actually be.
We do know it'll be something we can kill, but it could be something requiring more than a few bombs, and bombs are super precious at this stage of the game.
Yep, not to mention the fact that we would have no idea what it actually was. So if we have a key Gibdo or something similar that just has a bunch of health and we can't necessarily see, yeah, that would get not fun. Oh.
Yeah, this is another thing Randomizer does. A lot of rolling spikes in strange places. And they don't generally obey the landscape either, which makes them really fun to try and deal with.
Particularly the first time you see them, because you have no idea where they're going to start or stop.
Yeah. Looking at rupee counts here, one runner's just on 50, one runner's on 95 after picking up the red rupee out of the dam. And that's nowhere close to Zora money. Gonna need to pick up a pack of 300, a couple packs of 300s if we want to get those immediately. And this seems to be a fairly common randomization for Mini Moldorm Cave. I've seen it more than a couple times, it feels like. And it's a tricky one. Very nice double kill by A-Rod over there. Yeah, bombs can kill those things, even if they're not really visible. So A-Rod doing very well to take advantage of that and clear out where Amarith has to bail.
Yeah, A-Rod having 3 or 4 more bombs going in there, definitely making it a bit more worth their while.
Yeah, Ether Medallion and Small Shield for the trouble. The shield's nothing much. It can't block like those fireballs, for example, but maybe that Ether will come into play later.
Meanwhile, we had 2 Lionels blocking the way to the Ice Rod Cave, and that was not fun. But A-Rod being able to get through them nonetheless.
Yeah. Lionels are especially annoying enemies because they ignore pretty much everything that's not at least Tempered Sword class damage. Like, even the Master Sword slashes can't touch them. And
is there anything that they don't ignore that isn't at least Tempered Sword damage?
I do not believe so.
Yeah, and the list of things that do Tempered Sword damage starts with the Tempered and Butter Sword and ends with the Hammer. So, a little bit limited on stuff that makes Lionels go bye-bye.
Yep. Of course, the Fire Rod and the Hook Shot, and really the Medallions are all special cases as far as damage goes, but I believe the Lionel ignores all of those. I know it ignores the Rod and the Hook Shot. I actually am not 100% sure about Medallions.
It wouldn't surprise me if there were one of the 3 Medallions that did damage or froze it or otherwise did something.
Yeah. The smart money would be on Bombos there, because that's the one that kills everything it touches. But we are through our South Shore checks pretty much entirely, with the exception of Amarith having missed that Mini Moldorm Cave. So, on to Zora. Can't afford to pay him, but still 2 checks here and a ledge.
Yep, and with the really early flippers we found, we don't even have to fake our way up to that ledge.
Yeah, we don't have the equipment to do so at this point, so definitely a bit reassuring. And we've got a lot of fun things in place of the Zoras. The lag, I can feel it from here.
Yeah, that's one thing specific to Randomizer. It's going to give you lag. Your game is going to lag in particular rooms. No, there's nothing you can do about it. Sorry.
Yeah, there's a few rooms where it's really noticeable even with vanilla enemies, but Randomizer is just next level and can make it happen pretty much any room on the map with the right combinations.
Yep, and for those particular rooms you were talking about, I'm specifically thinking of Thieves Town in this instance. They can really slow you down.
Yeah, Thieves Town's one of those that's bad in vanilla, and it's the worst in Randomizer. Even if it's not necessarily difficult, it just feels like walking through molasses. Amarith face tanks a change hump for 300 rupees. Still not quite to Zora money off that.
Who put 2 chain jumps in there? That's terrifying.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. I'm not gonna mince words with that one.
I do thoroughly enjoy the moments of terror that our runners have shown. Like, I believe that both of them have attempted to excuse me. I believe that both of them have attempted to boomerang a mini Helmasaur at least 2 or 3 times.
Yep. And those don't work even from the back. But A-Rod's got Dark World access and decided that Eastern Palace is not the play with that Mitz plus Pearl. I'm going to take that to the Dark World instead. I don't actually know how many bombs this takes on Amarith's side. Just 2. So, can kill the... Well, really it's going to depend on what spawns. Amarith's only got 2 bombs left.
Yeah.
And got 2 more enemies that they've got to kill before getting back to whatever takes the place of the ball and chain guard.
Yeah, this is somewhat risky, especially because you have to manage both of them to even get to another chest. So we'll see how this works out. Could get lucky here. Could get something like a blue guard.
Well, on the map check, we've got the other 5-6 at Turtle Rock, and then Pendant Swamp and Mire. So, yeah, Amarith can't kill that Igor with bombs. It doesn't work. So, Orphaning Zelda's Cell. And we know it's an item because we've already seen both the map and the key in the castle area, so that hurts.
Meanwhile, A-Rod having a little fun here in these first couple rooms of Skull Woods, grabbing an early key that'll make routing the rest of the front here relatively easy.
Yeah, just gonna walk on through here and then find a Wallmaster probably. Well, I say that, Randomizer, so no. But pinball room, might have to just walk all the way back, or maybe even an intentional death would be fast if there are no more small keys.
Yep, as we swap a red and a blue hard hat beetle for 2 red ones. And that spike is does that count as goaltending? I feel like that counts as goaltending.
Yeah, I'll give you the call on that one. And hey, there is a Wallmaster. Guess Randomizer didn't quite get rid of that.
Oh, Randomizer does thoroughly enjoy its Wallmasters, and you get no warning about it until you hear, "Ooh."
Yeah. Yeah, but one of my first experiences with Randomizer a long time ago was a Wallmaster in the Ice Palace bomb jump room.
There's something delightfully hilarious about that.
Yep. But the only Wallmasters we've seen so far, I believe, have been vanilla, so maybe something changed about that? I don't know if that's still possible or not. Nice lagging Stalfos Knight there trying to jump through the statue. And there's a Bombos medallion, so we're 2 out of 3 on those. That's pretty reassuring early on.
You know, these medallions would make quick work of several of these really, really annoying rooms. If only we had a stinking sword so we could use them.
Yep. Often overlooked fun fact of the original game is, yeah, you cannot cast without a sword. But that comes into play so much more when you actually want to use them. Like, traditionally, they're just slow. But in Randomizer, they're a godsend for clearing out tricky rooms.
Particularly as it pertains to certain dark rooms. Because there are certain dark rooms you can just walk in there, drop an ether or drop a bombos, and then walk a little more confidently knowing that a lot of your stuff is either going to be stunned, frozen, or just obliterated.
Yeah. Unfortunately, no sword in sight means none of that. No lamp in sight means that yes, we are still in the dark. But we've also got no incentive to really visit any dark rooms at this stage of the game. Eastern Palace and Pod are both reachable, but no real reason to go there yet with a lot of the other checks we've still got on the board. Amarith taking a death just to get a health refill there after getting grabbed.
Yep, and that's something you're going to see a bit more of. You're also probably going to see, and I say this hesitantly for the potential of being incorrect here, but you're also going to see our runners being more likely to grab fairies or potions when they're confronted with, you know, the potential of not having any idea what's going to be ahead of them.
Yeah, I sort of mentioned it before with the value of the boomerang, but in general, the value of safeties absolutely skyrockets in Randomizer. Like, literally every single one is a lot more valuable than it is normally, just because you don't have the strats. You've got to wing it every single room.
Yep, and not only that, but you will actively have muscle memory working against you.
Yep. On the bright side, A-Rod found the Ice Rod. That's half of the combination we need to kill Trinex right there. And there could be 2 Trinexes this seed. Although, no, I don't think the Ice Rod counts as a true weapon either, though, between the 8-shot limitation on the magic meter and the fact that there are a lot of things that it will freeze instead of outright killing.
Yep, as well as what you mentioned before, some enemies just completely ignore it. Oof, that's an unfortunate skull placement there.
Yeah, Dark World floating skulls hurt really badly. Like, there's a reason that they're in the Fairy Full Magic 8 bomb price pack in vanilla.
Is it 4 hearts of damage?
I believe so, yeah. A-Rod had 2, and it was a kill from there, so it's at least that much, but I'm pretty sure it's 4. Okay, I think that this position's actually favorable for... Oh, Ice Rod actually works against those things.
Well, there's the half magic we were looking for. Now maybe we can get a sword.
Yep. That would certainly be nice, but even just half magic for the Ice Rod itself is fantastic. 16 shots of pure defense right there.
And you know, we mentioned lagging, but... I'm sorry, that mimic's delightful. We mentioned lagging, but Thieves Town's been relatively friendly so far.
Yeah, I think the worst lag was in the form of those fire bars, and hey, Armos. Ice Rod actually damages the Armos Knights at a fairly decent clip, I believe.
Well, A-Rod either doesn't know that or is saving it for later on in the fight. So here we go, guys. If anyone wants to count, feel free to do so. I am certainly not going to.
Yeah, getting a lot of doubles there helps a little bit at least. The Amarith's just skipping out entirely on Thieves Town for now. Went down, did the dig game, looking to grab the Smith right here and just take it on a trip. Now, the big thing about the Armos Knights is that in the start of the fight here, when they're trying to form up, until they do form up, they do not move. But since that one died, the remaining 5 did form up, and now they're moving. Amarith died with the Smith intel. I didn't see what that was to.
I think it was a landmine, but I only saw it for a moment before it was death, whatever it was.
Also, I just checked. The Ice Rod actually does a different class of damage to Armos Knights in the Fire Rod, but it's the same value. So it would be 6 Ice Rod shots per Armos Knight, as opposed to the 48 boomerang hits.
So we'd be able to take out 2 Armos Knights and do severe damage to the third one.
Yes, but given how the health refills when the last Armos Knight turns red, it may actually be worth to just save it for the last 2. Or maybe last 3.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if A-Rod agrees with you there, because we are 1 Armos Knight down still, and 5 to go.
Yep, got a good rhythm here on these though, so should be down to 3 not that far from now. Not that far from now.
Meanwhile,
Amarith did turn in the Smith for pretty much nothing. A-Rod continuing with the boomerang strats. Down to 2.
Nope, so I don't believe A-Rod knows that the Ice Rod does damage, because I feel like at this point you'd definitely give it a whack or 2.
Yeah, especially with half magic, you've got enough shots to take out both of them from full. So at this point, this is just time loss if Amarith knows to do it.
And one thing that we did actually gloss over because of the hilarity of killing Armos Knights with a red boomerang. The big thing about Thieves Town here is that in Randomizer, you don't actually have to go save the maiden or crack open the bombable area up in the attic. The boss is just sitting here waiting for you. Now, obviously, we're probably going to want to see those just so we have an idea of what the rest of the items are, but not required to beat the dungeon.
Yep. And that does also apply if it's a vanilla blind as well. But we did see 2 items in the front of Thieves Town. A-Rod does get a hook shot for a 3rd item. So now the question is, do you go back in for that last one?
I don't know. It depends on how you feel about dungeons in general there. Amarith taken a death to an enemy that I didn't see underneath the bridge there, so going to nope out of Thieves Town for at least a little bit. That's going to be a little while before they come back and get that hook shot.
Yes, it will be. They're going to be able to grab the purple chest here at least and turn that in when they finish the rest of their Dark World loop. I believe still have Stumpy and Hype Cave on the menu there.
Yep, and on the way of skipping things, one of the things we have not checked yet is hammer pegs, because, well, we don't have the hammer, so that's going to be something on both of their minds once that hammer is, in fact, found.
Yep. Randomizer does not change overworld requirements or the things you need to actually get to places. It's just once you're actually into those dungeons.
And thank goodness for that, because keeping track of the dungeon changes is quite enough for me, thank you.
Yep. And then the other thing is, I believe you mentioned it before, but the way the bosses are shuffled in this mode, you will not see a boss more than twice. And most of the bosses you will only see once. Therefore, we may have to see another of those Armos kills. I would hope we find a better weapon for it by then, or we just see people use the Ice Rod. Yeah, Amarith needs to go pick up the chest before saving and quitting. And got to figure out what to do with that shovel as well. Although I guess no save and quit on the menu for this one. Gonna swim it on over to the pyramid, it looks like.
Alright, we're going for the lesser well-known Purple Chest World Tour.
Yeah, this is the one that you'll almost never see traditionally, just because there's no reason to do it instead of the smith. But Randomizer be weird, yo.
It do in fact be weird. Meanwhile, A-Rod is going to make use of that shovel in just a moment here. So we'll see if Hype Cave is absolutely useless or just mostly so.
Yeah. Good decision to route this in with the smith turn in, taking the south route to Kakariko. I believe it may be at least as fast, even just doing it normally. Being able to route in that shovel check as well is always something. And there's the other rod. We can kill Trinex now if it shows up, I think, between 2 rods and half magic.
Well, I mean, we need something that actually does damage to the heads, but yes.
The rod itself.
I don't think the ice rod does damage to the firehead. I might be wrong.
Yes, it does. It takes, like, once it's stunned, you can just repeatedly hit it, and I think it's 10 hits. So you need a magic extension or 2 beyond half magic, but it's doable. And then chat's reminding me that you can't hit the main body without a sword or a hammer. Feels bad.
Randomizer be weird, yo.
Yeah, just so many things to consider that you don't normally. Especially because in vanilla, you can't get the turtle rock without a hammer. So you've always got something to kill Trinex with.
Alright, so fairly early time to check of catfish here. We'll see if this comes in handy. Oh, no.
No, but my experience lately has been that routing in the pyramid without also routing in catfish is pretty slow when your Dark World access is mids especially. So that pyramid fire rod, really that's enough of a payoff for Amarith here, I think.
Yeah, that is that's pretty huge. So it'll be interesting to see when A-Rod heads in that direction.
I would not expect to see it before a Palace of Darkness play, and maybe even then. Well, there we go. That's actually usable. And Amarith finally checking the stun price.
Yeah, speaking of things that paid off, how about a no mirror, no flute, no hammer, purple chest for a sword? Oh boy.
It also means that Amarith can go back and get the junk out of Mini Moldworm Cave that it had to abandon earlier. And meanwhile, A-Rod is braving the Old Man Dark Room. I have absolutely no grasp of how that's going, but the health total is fairly high, so I'm guessing it's going very well. Old Man rescued.
Yeah, I saw a couple of shadows as we get a Mountain Jazz Hands.
Yeah. Chat's asking about the minimum sword to hit Trinex's body. If we're talking about slashes, it's minimum Master Sword, but Fighter Sword spins will do the same job. And I have no idea what the shadow enemies are called. I just call them really annoying.
So this is another new check here. Amarith does now have the money for Zora. And I imagine that we're going to be seeing that check in just a moment.
Amarith saved money on that bee in a bottle, too, so... A-Rod finds another nice safety item in the Cane of Burna. That lets A-Rod kill blind, though we know where the sword is to also enable that.
Ooh, speaking of lag, Amarith having a little bit of fun there for a bit.
Yeah, this is another one of those rooms that is not great in vanilla as far as lag goes. And then when you put everything on screen at once instead of letting them spawn somewhat intermittently, yeah, you get this.
You get a guard mini Moldorm is what you get.
Yeah, and that's a junk check, unfortunately, but it's out of mind for Amarith now. It's done and gone. A-Rod's made it to the east side of the mountain here. Gonna check the light world first, then can check the full dark world as well.
Yep, and Paradox Cave is as close to hype as we generally get here, so we'll see if there's something up here.
Yeah, 7 items does beat every single dungeon in the game except Ganon's Tower. And killing an Igor with what exactly? It's gonna have to be a Cane of Burna kill on that Igor. Bombs aren't gonna do it. Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah, A-Rod not identifying the use of Cane of Burna as a weapon there. But it does the ring that it spawns does do fighter sword damage, and that can kill Igors. As long as they're not red.
Yep, and once again, that's a situation where not having knowledge of items in your repertoire and what they do and what damage they do to what enemies, kind of coming back to bite A-Rod a little bit there.
Yep, which is a bit unfortunate because it's knowledge that you really don't need unless you're playing Randomizer. But then suddenly you're playing Randomizer and you need it and you don't have it and it's just sad times. Amarith, Fire Rod plus Sword can go clear Skull Woods. We do know that the boss in the back will not be Trinex. That cannot spawn there, but pretty much anything else is fair game.
Yep, and it has the potential to be, let's just say not fun. There are certain bosses that are rather hilarious here, like, let's see. My personal favorite is probably that, oh, that was unfortunate.
Yeah. Were you going to say the Helmasaur King by any chance?
Yeah, it's the Helmacopter. That is just an absolutely delightful boss, and it always makes me laugh every time.
Yeah, that one is a treat for sure. But it is worth calling out that Mothula is the only boss actually immune to spikes. Or at least specifically programmed to be immune to spikes.
I'm fairly certain Amarith is wishing they were immune to chain chomps at this point. Seriously, who puts one there?
Yeah, especially with that spike. And the knockbacks on those mini Helmas are no joke either. That room is terrifying. Okay, A-Rod has now identified that the Cane of Burna can kill Igors. And is able to get the key, will progress on to Zelda's cell. And that's actually a new check for us. Amarith died and abandoned that.
Alright, so this is an interesting one for muscle memory. If you want the key, you have to kill the jellyfish on the...
Amarith got hit the same frame as the door transition, and apparently EG'd for it. Gonna have to save and quit. Like, that's really, really unfortunate and a complete accident. But once you're in that state, you have no choice but to save and quit. But yeah, game can't handle two things happening at once, and those flying enemies get to places where you don't normally expect enemies to be, and you can get hit the same frame you go through a door. And it's just sad times.
You know, this seed is acting as a really, really good reminder to just never play Randomizer.
Yeah, this seed is definitely on the ruder end of league-setting Randomizer seeds I've seen. Like, obviously, we're not even using the really crazy settings like the damage and health shuffles or the super chaos boss shuffle or anything. And even this is showing what Randomizer can really do.
Alright, Amarith is not to be deterred, though. We are going to get to see that boss in Mothula's room if it's the last stinking thing we do.
Yeah, I'm looking over the tracker right now, and I'm trying to identify what bosses Amarith can and can't kill. And Amarith can kill a Helmasaur King if it comes to it. Cannot kill an Argus without the hook shot. Can kill a Mothula, although it'll take good use of the Fire Rod. I guess there is the sword too. Can kill a Blind with the sword. Can kill a Cold Stare with both Bombos and Fire Rod to open the shell. Can kill a Vitreous, but it'll be very slow and very painful. And can kill a Trinex. So basically, as long as it's not Argus, Amarith's in solid shape.
I don't know about that Helmasaur, only because all 5 bombs would need to be a hit in order to kill Helmasaur, so that would take some really nice execution.
Right, it would definitely take some execution there, but it is in logic.
And technically, with that, with the hook shot sitting on, I guess we'll say Blind's room, every boss is within logic. Could very well be terrifying, but within logic nonetheless.
Yep, and here's the one that Amarith cannot kill. So just going to take the intentional death and go for that bridge chest.
Also, Reg, burn the witch. That's all. Hey, this is another one of those rooms that's terrifying.
Nice Kaizo, by the way. And nice synchronized deaths, unfortunately. That Eastern Palace Dark Room has so many of the enemies visible that it might not be that bad in general for a Dark Room. But jeez, that's silly. Yeah. Amarith taking the stairs this time and just evading the problem entirely, only to be met with a spike to the face for it.
You know, it's hard to commentate when I just keep laughing. Goodness gracious, these rooms are just not fun.
Yeah, they are very entertaining, but yes, they are not fun. A-Rod's back on the east side of the mountain after not getting out of Paradox Cave earlier. Got a Spiral Cave check and then some Dark Mountain checks. So that's a good 7 items to be had. Meanwhile, I'm wondering how Amarith is going to approach the big chest. You gonna take the vanilla route? Yep. Not gonna bother with that spike, dealing with the bomb jump.
Yeah, today is not the day to try that bomb jump.
Anti-fairies in Spiral Cave is just a big Y. Especially going opposite directions like that. What the heck?
2 for the price of 1, and there's gonna be another one. Turn it around in just a second here. Good dodge.
I went through that cave and all I got were these lousy bombs. I believe AROD already had 10 at that point anyways, which just makes it even worse.
Sorry, I'm still giggling about these rooms. I'll recover eventually. It's just gonna take a minute. I just laugh every time I see one.
Yeah. The good news is that there are very few enemies here in the Super Bunny Cave. In fact, if AROD gets this clip, then I'm not going to see any of them. Actually, no, I tell a lie. There's 2 in this room. But this isn't too bad. And there's the fun item. Now we can party.
The problem is that that both runners are 1/3 away from being able to properly party.
Actually, yeah, you're right. AROD's missing either the fire rod or the sword. Amarith's missing that cane. How sad. I was looking at Amarith, I didn't see what that medallion was. Chat's saying Bombos, though, so that's fine, we have that. That's another very rude anti-fairy. Amarith is choosing not to fight the Armos Knights. Gonna continue missing out on that hook shot. There's the item Amarith wants.
And that's kind of an interesting choice, especially because Amarith does have the Fire Rod, and we all know that Fire Rod does damage to Armos Knights. I mean, Ice Rod's a little more iffy in terms of, does it do damage? I'm not sure, but Fire Rod definitely does, so I'm kind of surprised to not see an attempt there.
Yeah, and even if not Fire Rod, the Boomerang Armos kill is a meme, and the sword is the casual backup weapon if you run out of arrows. Like, no, it's not fast, but it's not impossible either. And this is a crystal, so gonna have to do it at some point.
Yeah, and this right here is Randomizer showing its teeth, because we are 46 minutes in, and we have 1 crystal between our 2 runners.
Yeah, part of that's we've seen boss rooms that haven't been able to beat, specifically that Argus, and Amarith also noping out of that Armos fight, only to die to all the anti-fairies in the Hellway. Anti-fairies are mean.
Yeah, especially when you combine them with conveyors and spikes and put 3 of them in a single room.
That's a Hellway for you. Looks like Amarith may be off to Eastern Palace.
Yeah, and from what we saw on AROD's side, out of the frying pan into the fire, I fear.
Yeah, maybe, but maybe once we actually get into the dungeon. If we actually get into the dungeon. AROD is taking the purple chest over to Catfish, it looks like. Just taking a slightly different route from Amarith. Means that that fire rod's going to get put off just a little bit longer. But I can't imagine it'll be missed if we're making these checks.
Nope, never mind. We are skipping cat. Oh, wait. Oh, yeah. No, wait. Yep. Okay, Catfish.
Yeah, I think he got dead rock there and is just trying to work around it.
And that's some more of the added fun of Randomizer there. Bugnet, not a bad find.
Nope. Unfortunately, I don't believe bees can spawn as like the random endomized enemies, but it's a shame because it would be useful to be able to catch one or two, just to let them loose. But the big thing that I'm hoping for is that the fire rod makes that dark room a lot easier on Amarith's side. That way we can see what lies on the other side.
Amarith's trying every trick in the book to maintain and get some health here, but it's just not quite working out.
Yep. This room notably not endomized because the spawning Stalfos don't handle being randomized very well. A-Rod's got a sword. Let's see where it goes. Looks like Agina.
Not a bad call. You're about 50 minutes in at this point. You probably want to go ahead and start making sure you got all the sphere 0 checks out of the way. Those the boots?
Those were the boots. It's a single dip desert palace as soon as we actually get entry, assuming A-Rod finds either his fire rod or a lamp somewhere first.
Alright, so we need a flute or a book. I think it was... Goodness gracious.
Amarith not finding that small key yet. Took a couple hits first. There it is. Can you get out alive? Yes. Now just back to the other dark room. Nope. But hey, fairy. And Amarith can go capture another, I believe, on the way to the back. So, not terrible shape.
Yeah, no, not at all. That was going to be the difficult one since Fire Rod does not help at all with that one. It will help a bit with this next one, so long as we don't have enemies kind of blocking those torches.
Yeah. A-Rod's going up to pay Zora finally. I was hoping that this would be the Ice Palace dive using Bombos to get in the front door. The Freezors at the very start are also not randomized. Do not take very well to that. So, still need either the Fire Rod or Bombos plus Sword to even get anywhere. And yeah, there's another fairy catch. So, Amarith not going to waste any time pulling out the Fire Rod here, and we will see what for sure is going on in this room. Oh lord, that's... Hey, it wasn't the Igor with the key, so we're through the dark.
I honestly thought it was one of those, so I was pleasantly surprised. I thought it was going to be an Igor for a key anyways.
Yeah. That's a silly mimic. Gonna cut it down to size just to not take damage on the way through. Cannonballs are not enemies, do not get randomized.
Oh goodness, that would be terrifying. Stay in that room for longer than about 4 seconds and your game might crash.
Nah, you just run into sprite limits and nothing will spawn. It's not that bad. There's that room down for a Helmasaur King. So, how many casuals we got in chat?
Well, instead of 17 hammer hits, you need 5 bomb ones, so there we go. Yeah, that doesn't work. You're gonna have to spin it, bud. Sorry.
Yeah, this fight is difficult because of that. That hitbox means you gotta get close. Oh, but that one counted twice. That wasn't bad. No, Amarith's got a fairy. Amarith's fine. And it is the Ice Palace play for A-Rod on that side. And that's a Helmasaur King down for Amarith. Gonna be their first crystal.
Very nicely done.
And there's a Wall Master. So, A-Rod is in the party dungeon. Gonna use a bomb because those do special damage to the Hinox. Oh, very nicely played.
I think you and I have a different definition of party, Greg.
Nah, watch.
It's what I'm afraid of.
Okay, he's using Bombos to... Okay, he's on Bombos, but he came into this room, pulling out the Cane of Samaria. So what he's doing is he's setting up here, clip one pixel into that rail, and then he's going to move around, basically trick the game into thinking he was still in the door, and it let him walk through that rail and get right to that chest. And boom, Ice Palace does not suck anymore. Like I said, party dungeon. Because now you just get all the checks, except he still has no hammer, so he has to skip that one.
Wouldn't this be a terrible location for the hammer?
Not anymore. Now, the chat's saying that A-Rod did not flip the switch, the crystal switch, which is completely accurate. But A, he has no hammer, so he doesn't care. And B, he found the big key anyway, so you don't have to hit the crystal switch when you've got the big key.
Yep, between the big key and the Cane of Samaria, we could just go ahead right along with that.
You still have to knock down pegs to reach the boss room of this dungeon. But yeah, everything else besides that one other chest on the right side is good to go. Also, Amarith did show us the Dark Cross using that fire rod to light the way. It was just junk, but it's Amarith's junk now.
Yep, 10 more arrows to add to the pile.
I believe the only check left that A-Rod can get here is the big chest, which... No, the big key was not hammer locked, so this big chest can be the hammer.
Oh wow, that would...
Yeah, that would suck, yeah. But A-Rod is here, and it's not. But yeah, even going just perfectly by logic, the first chest on the right side of Ice Palace is not hammer locked by any stretch.
Yep, it's that second and third chest that'll get you.
Yep, and the newfound tech that A-Rod showed off, commonly known as Icebreaker, lets us get around the hammer for that third chest specifically. But there's still the second one that's a problem. So, where to next for both of these runners? I'm starting to eye the back of Thieves Town a little suspiciously because there is still one item back there and we are really running low on checks.
Yeah, that's a good point. there's still a large handful of things that we could get that would be helpful, but we don't have any of it right now. Things like the mirror, or a book to get in the desert for the boots, or a flute to get into the mire area. All of these things would help, but we don't have any of them yet.
Yep. What we do have is that hook shot on A-Rod's side. If A-Rod ever gets to the pyramid, which that may be the goal now, A-Rod can go kill that Argus in Skull Woods, and that may be an item as well. And yeah, this is going to be a fire rod for A-Rod very shortly, and I've got to imagine that's going to drag him over to Skull Woods, especially with ice already cleared out to the greatest extent that he can.
You know, another dungeon that's kind of calling out that we haven't seen it all yet. How about Pod?
That is true. Said earlier, Pod, no bow, no problem. Except if you want to reach the boss. And heck, on A-Rod's side, we even do have that bow. So actually, yeah, I think he's going to just be walking right over to Pod here. Good call. I didn't even think about that one.
I was just thinking about larger amounts of items that we could go get, and Pod's really the only thing left.
Yep. Between 4 and 5 items in Pod, well, really in A-Rod's case, 5 items in Pod if you can get all the way to the boss, compared to 1 item in Skull Woods, 1 item in Thieves Town. Also, chat's mentioning hammer. We don't have that, can't get the Helmosaur, so between 4 and 5 items in Pod.
Yep, but that's still more than we're going to get anywhere else, so we might as well. At some point, I wonder when our runners are going to start to backtrack and say, okay, let's go ahead and take out Blind for Amarith. Let's go ahead and take out the Eastern boss for A-Rod. Let's start clearing stuff that we know we can clear that we just don't want to.
I mean, that's basically all A-Rod's got left after Pod here. Finding, say, a hammer or mirror or something would open that up a bit. But, yeah.
Hi!
Yeah. So, one shot full clear of Pod, let's go.
Yeah, and if we run into the mirror, we can go ahead and take out Eastern while we're at it.
Yep. And honestly, I'm expecting the lamp to be in here too at this point, just because that would make sense.
I mean, alternatively, it could be somewhere terrible like Hammer Pegs or the big chest in Thieves Town.
There's always everybody's favorite swamp palace if the mirror shows up too.
Green Pendant Swamp Palace.
Yeah, but Swamp Palace has new tech that also makes it not suck. So even though it's a pendant, it's not the end of the world if you gotta go in there. Okay, that's a big key. So I believe every single remaining chest in the front of Pod is a guaranteed small key. So can save a little bit of time not checking a couple of those if the rest of your tech's on point. But gonna see at least the bridge here from A-Rod, I think, even if the decision to skip the Stalfos basement is in the cards. And obviously no reason to go for the vanilla big key chest, which we know is just key for key. So no bombs there. And yeah, A-Rod knows the pod key logic. Pulling out the bombs, are we going to see a hammer jump right away here? Or just going to blow it open? Just blowing it open. Hammer jump into the dark, a bit dangerous.
Yeah, it's not one of the worst rooms, only having 4 enemies in it, but it's still not something you want to be messing around with if you have a choice.
Nope. Amarith's weapon of choice for the Armos Knights here is the Cane of Burna, which does fighter sword damage, so 16 hits. Pretty easy to layer and stack like this, as you can see. And there's the hook shot.
Very nicely done on Amarith's side. On A-Rod's side, we see that harmless Hellway. Not so harmless this time around, as we head into the Dark Maze. Let's have fun.
Yeah. Immediately going for the ether strats. Not ideal, as at least one of the enemies was replaced by a fire bar, but not terrible. And that was something. This is an ether cast. Something ignored the ether and just kept hitting him. I have no idea what that was.
Could that have been an Igor?
Could have been.
Because everything that flies would have taken damage to the ether. So it would have been something on the ground that does, I believe, a full heart of damage.
Yeah, Igors or Mimics would be the... Well, no, Mimics no, because he wasn't moving. So Igor seems like the most probable, yeah. That first room of the hallway was a lot less terrifying without the crickets, but the flying things, no thanks.
The flying things aren't terrible, but the bombers are very much not fun. They're a bit more aggressive, and they drop bombs at you, and those bombs do a bunch of damage.
Yeah, and the hookshot actually takes them down really nicely, as we saw from Amarith there. Just other things, they have this really nasty tendency to dodge.
Yeah, they seem to have a similar dodge mechanic to the Stealthos, and yeah, them being airborne and throwing grenades at you makes them just a bit more unfriendly.
Yeah, like comparing them to the Stalfos is doing them a great injustice, really. They're a lot worse in my book. Yeah. So the last item in Thieves Town is in the big chest. No hammer for Amarith means no go for Amarith, too.
Yeah, and that is a lot of time sunk into that portion there for absolutely nothing.
Yeah, you hate to see it. You really hate to see it. This seed's done enough to them as it is.
Yeah, it seems like we're getting a combination here. You know, we get a trolley seed on one hand that's also just terribly enemized. My goodness.
Honestly, I'm thinking about the logic of this seed, and it doesn't strike me as that bad. until you factor in the Randomizer. Once you get there, though, just oof.
Menu boss.
Yeah, you can try the fighter sword spin strats if you want to in here. Yeah, just with this moving floor, be my guest. It's going decently well for A-Rod, though, all considered. Like, the moving floor isn't the end of the world here.
Yeah, honestly, a lot of the adjusted strat for Randomizer is just be patient, don't rush into things, take your time, don't die.
Yep. That's how you gotta do it. Although I am looking at the damage tables for this boss, and Argus is not immune to spikes. You knock Argus into the spikes, you get gold sword tier damage.
Well, hopefully A-Rod will be able to take advantage of that in just a second here.
It's trying for fire rod strats, but it's not going. I think that was a knock into spike, though. So just get another spin, and oh, that was a fire rod into spike, so 2 clean hits for A-Rod, and that's the second item in Skull Woods.
All right, and with that, we are tied at 2 well-earned crystals apiece.
Yep. I have to imagine that the third and the fourth probably aren't that far off for A-Rod. I've got to imagine a return trip to Pod is in the cards in the near future. And clearing out Eastern at the same time, probably on the menu as well.
That's a fair point. We're also going to have access to be able to actually complete Ice Palace as well. So we're really just waiting on something to get into Desert. And, I mean, that might be it. Maybe Quake for Turtle Rock, but other than that, we're looking pretty good here.
Actually, we've seen Turtle Rock, and it is Bombos. So yeah, the Book of Medora would actually be go mode. I say that, technically a Master Sword. But you've got to imagine at this point, at least one of those swords is going to be in Ganon's Tower.
I mean, you'd hope.
Yeah, you would. But we have what it takes to get into and clear every dungeon except Desert Palace. Well, every crystal dungeon. And we can also kill every boss in the game. So, yeah, it's either the Book of Medora or the Flute plus the Mirror just to get us into Desert Palace, and that's go mode. And honestly, for as silly as this seed has been in a lot of ways, being in that state less than 75 minutes in, that ain't too bad.
No, most definitely not. At this point, it's down to execution. If our runners can go in, kill the enemies that need to be killed, get through the difficult dungeons and whatever bosses the seed throws at them, this could still end up being a very good seed.
Yep. It's all about quality of play at this point, as you said. We've got the safeties in the form of Burna, Cape, Hookshot, and so on. So it's just, you gotta put one and one together in your play at this point, and that's it. Of course, finding, say, those silver arrows or something would be pretty nice. Especially because we know there's a Vitreous, at least one Vitreous, hanging around this seed.
Yeah, that's a fair point, and nothing stops a good Ganon's Tower climb like Vidi sitting on Moldorm 2.
You had to go there, didn't you?
I mean, it doesn't matter if I go there. As long as Vidi doesn't go there, we're fine.
Fun fact. You can get 1.0'd by getting knocked off of Moldorm 2 Vidi. You can get 1.0'd and die there.
Yep, we enjoy playing the 1.0 version of this game because it allows us to break things in a little more of an amusing fashion, but on occasion the game breaks us instead.
Yep. And for people in chat that may not know the specific terminology, getting 1.0'd means when you fall into a pit, you can still take damage by things that go over the pit, like fireballs or vitreous eyes that fly over the pit. Or, in the most extreme case, you can get wall mastered after falling in a pit. Also, chat's asking about book on ped. Book on ped is possible. However, in order for us to get all the pendants to pull ped, we need both the flute and the mirror. So even if book is on ped, we would never pull it this seed.
Amarith, forgetting about the Cane of Burna there.
Yeah, and the rate things are going may not have much magic to use with it. Okay, there we go. No cane usage, but still gets the chest.
I mean, at this point, couldn't we have... We could have... Let me see, hold on. Okay, so we need flute and mirror. So we would need to access mirror to pull the ped, and we need the flute for Meyer. So yeah, we're not gonna be pulling a book. Sorry, guys.
Yep, not today. Okay, so where's Amarith off to next? I'm thinking it's, well, starting from Link's house, it's probably not Palace of Darkness, which we know that's where Amarith needs to be going right now to get the hammer. Is it going to be Hammerless Ice Palace for Amarith, it's looking like?
Yeah, it was close to where they needed to go, but not quite.
Yeah, and even though Ice Palace routing isn't nearly as bad as it used to be, it's still not great without the hammer, especially since we know it's not in here. Gonna have to pay a return trip later.
Meanwhile, we are getting some fetch quests over here on A-Rod side. Time to turn in the mushroom.
Yep, we did find that earlier. I'm trying to remember where it was. I can't remember where it was, but it was somewhere. Oh, it was hammer pegs, excuse me. And hey, another safety. So yeah, Master Sword Ganon, which we are probably staring down with only one sword this far into the seed, is looking significantly less bad.
Yeah, still really hoping for a late Silvers to kind of help us out. Oh, never mind. I am an absolute idiot. Ignore that.
Yeah, it's okay. Meanwhile, Amarith is not showing off the party dungeon tech, opting to take the traditional Ice Palace route that does not involve walking through a rail.
And this is interesting, because this is not a 100% strat at this point. Because that Ice Palace bomb jump can be made difficult or impossible by certain enemies that could be in this room.
Wall Masters, let's go. I don't wish that on Amarith, let's not do that.
I mean, come on, we already have a key he knocks. And another one!
Enoch's throwing bombs at that crystal switch is just rude. Well, Firebar got replaced by a rat, that's nice. That bomb jump setup, yeah, that was a pixel too low. I think that one's good. Yep.
One thing to keep in mind here, even though that looks like a rat, it is not in fact a rat. That is a cricket. Because enemies that have the same...
Yes, you're completely correct. The crickets are the Dark World version of the rat. Also, we did see a lamp on A-Rod's side at the magic bat.
That's not fun.
It's not fun, but it's also not bad, because it means now that the mirror is also Go mode. That means our Go mode can't be in Swamp Palace, unless it's like 3 swords in Swamp.
Greg, you said that one, bud. That one's on you.
Yeah, I said it. But it's okay, because Swamp Palace also sucks less now. And besides, doesn't everybody love a good post-GT sword hunt? Okay, it's not on me. Sorry.
Oh, saved by Mire Shed.
A-Rod is going for a pendant mire dip with Ice Palace, Pod, Turtle Rock all on the table. I'm actually really intrigued by this play. I'm also really intrigued by that metronome spike there.
It was soothing, I would say.
Yeah. Now let's see what the heck they did to Mire 2 in the Randomizer. Looks like a lot of junk with all these mini Helmosaurs.
Yeah, but thankfully nothing with a whole lot of health.
No, but honestly, this room is slower and more difficult than the traditional Mire 2. I'm sad. And I'm just going to blame mini Helmosaurs. They are the second worst enemy in this game.
I'm assuming our lovely green bomber friends are the worst.
No, mini Moldworms.
How are they worse than... No, those parabombers are by far the worst enemy in this game.
Those things may be dangerous. Amarith is remembering you need a hammer to knock some pegs down. But, yeah. There is a difference between dangerous and bad in this context, as A-Rod found a third sword in Misery Mire. So, yeah. We're not looking at 3 swords behind the mirror, we're just looking at 3 behind the flute instead.
So one thing I did check really quickly, I did look at A-Rod's tracker, and they do have Mire as a pendant, so this isn't a situation of accidentally marking it down incorrectly.
That's a little bit reassuring, but that just makes this all the more interesting of a play when there are 4 crystals that A-Rod could go get right now, if he was so inclined.
Yep, not to mention the fact that with 1 item being found in here already, there's only 1 left.
Yeah, and granted, that 1 item was a sword, which is always nice to have. But the chances of this coming up mirror book, not great. Well, where's Amarith off to? Oh, this Amarith is taking the long walk to Palace of Darkness, which, with only the mitts for Dark World access, gotta take this route.
Yeah, this game pretty much went, okay, so we're going to give you Dark World access that's more limited, okay? So we're going to make sure you have the mitts, you don't have the hammer. Where are we going to put the hammer? I know, on the other side of Hyrule.
Yeah. At least the flippers were super early. Like, that's the only real consolation here.
You know what else is a nice consolation? We know exactly where the boots are, but we can't get them.
We can get them exactly when we need them, and no sooner. Which is fine.
Oh, that's a delightfully snarky way to put that. I like it.
Yeah, like, we're in a serious who cares about a boots lock situation right now. Amarith cannot afford Palace of Darkness, is not having much luck trying to dig up, and there goes Monkey. Needs 21 rupees, and digging is not going well.
Well, we know the stun prize is a green rupee. Start rolling. And walking through here is going to cost another 10 rupees.
I haven't been paying attention to what the prize packs are, so I don't... Okay, the Baris are not in the good prize pack. A-Rod found a 3rd bottle as the 2nd item in Meyer. And yeah, Amarith's going to have to abandon this play until they can come up with 31 rupees.
Which pretty much means that we went from almost last locationing to hammer to... Oh, never mind. Going to go for it right here.
I think Amarith is still pretty much last location. I can't come up with any others at any rate. That 8 bomb dig would be really nice if it weren't explicitly cash we were looking for.
You have got to be kidding me right now.
A-Rod gonna show us the party dungeon routing again. Amarith is still a nickel short. Okay, there's the cash. And there's a free bee and fairy. I have 2 empty bottles. That bee will be nice in Dark Turtles, or whatever enemy replaces turtles there.
Yeah, good call. And that's if it doesn't come down to a situation of needing it for the dark room. For the dark maze, I should say.
A-Rod setting up Icebreaker again. Is in position for it. Needs to just drop the cane block. And there you go. Just walk right on through. I'm going to be able to make the 1 hammer lock check in this room that he wasn't able to make before, and then just make his way straight to the boss. Has the big key, so doesn't have to worry about any crystal switch shenanigans. Amarith finally has a hammer at 1:27. That's got to be at least a little bit of a relief.
Yep, as Amarith evolves into Hamarith.
Yeah, if I've been counting correctly in Ice Palace and I recall correctly, Cold Stare is holding an item. So
I believe you are correct.
Yeah, gonna get to see what that is here. Well, I say Cold Stare. Whatever replaces Cold Stare. Could still be vanilla, though. We haven't seen one yet.
Yeah, that's right. And with no more than one copy of any boss we've seen thus far, we have no information on what could or could not be anywhere at this point.
Yep. Basically, we know Blind can't be Landmola's 2, and there's a subset of bosses that can be in Moldorm 2 and Moldorm 1. Which, this is our second Argus, so guaranteed to see no more of those this seed. Which is a shame. Argus has some fun interactions with the Ice Armos room.
But on this side, though, we do actually get to see a genuinely cotton candy colored Argus.
Yeah, that's actually pretty cool. And there's the lamp.
Who put that there? That's terrible.
It's a pretty classic meme for a reason. I don't even dislike it, except in Randomizer. And actually, what we see on Amarith's side there is actually an example of getting 1.0. Got knocked off the bridge, and then the jumping enemy, whose name escapes me at the moment, was partially hanging off the bridge and hit Amarith again as the sprite fell. You hate to see it.
You know, this seed has not been terribly friendly health-wise. We're sitting at 11 hearts on one end and 9 on the other. Generally, at an hour and a half in, we'd have a little more than that.
Generally, yeah. But with so many checks restricted to us for so long on account of, like, no hammer, no mirror, and so on, there is still a significant amount we haven't done. So let's see. I don't think we can see what's in the first. Oh! A-Rod did not get that chest. Amarith is not in go mode yet. Needs that flute first. So flute or book, go mode for Amarith. And mirror or book, go mode for A-Rod. I believe that was a big key of pod was in the front. I don't know what that was, Amarith pulled.
Could have been bombs or arrows at this point, because we didn't hear a rupee counter. And that heart is not unwelcome at this point.
Yeah. That mirror is a big find, because A-Rod could very easily go back into Palace of Darkness and just bum rush the crystal and ignore the dark maze. At this point, that would be a valid play.
And now we get to see how genuinely unfriendly this dark room was.
Yeah, those bomb slugs are nasty in the dark. But I think this one is definitely worse. Tektites are obnoxious.
Yeah, between the two, the bomb slugs are, 4 hearts green mail, and the Tektites are 2 hearts and jump around. Yeah, I'd rather not have either of them. It's all the same.
Amarith is short a small key. Does realize it before actually going into the back, though. Yeah, just needs to take the long way around and open that bridge chest. Where the heck? What had the key? Oh, all the way up at the top? That was... I don't know what happened on A-Rod's side there.
I'm not certain either, because I saw him kill the enemy, but I didn't see the key drop.
I don't think that was any sort of sprite limit thing, but it may well have been. Randomizer is a little weird.
Oh, that's a fair point. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. Let's see how Amarith handles the dark here with unknown enemies. It looks like from that sparkle, it's the shadow whatever enemies in that room. A visible Stalfos in this room, and Turtles is not that bad. Like, yeah, can I have this as my turtle room every seed, please? A-Rod's got Helmasaur down, so that's, what, 4 crystals? And can run straight back down to pod for a 5th?
Yep, that is absolutely correct.
Yeah, and then the only outstanding question will be that mirror. Will A-Rod go and get it? Here's our first Moldworm with the seed. Significantly less threatening without hits. Even when enraged.
Alright, so the shadow enemies, and I'm saying this because I'm completely and totally going to forget it, are called Babusus.
I'll try to remember that and then probably forget it in 20 minutes when we see them in Ganon's Tower. Amarith now on 4 crystals. Amarith hasn't gone back for Skull Woods yet?
Yeah, at this point, both the runners have a bit they need to backtrack for.
Yeah, which A-Rod's knocking out the backtrack right now. And on Amarith's side, it's just a boss that can be killed at convenience, basically. And Ice Palace, which is getting cleaned up right now on that side.
Alright, so we'll see in just a moment if A-Rod's going to be, Oh, it doesn't look like it. That's interesting.
No, this is the reasonable play. A-Rod's 1 item from Go mode, and from his perspective, Helmasaur King could just as easily have it. And in that case, you save a lot of time by doing this. The interesting part will be is if A-Rod chooses not to go back in afterwards. That's what we don't want to see.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
The play we're seeing here on A-Rod's side is pretty equivalent to doing the back of Swamp Palace before the left side. A-Rod is entering the incredibly friendly Bari room. And Amarith's going to show us the Ice Palace bomb jump again. Which, honestly, with Icebreaker being a thing, we're not going to be seeing that much of this tech going forward in the league, except for people who haven't learned Icebreaker yet. That's the real value of being able to do this bomb jump. Well, actually, I say that, but if you come into Ice Palace without Samaria, this is still the route. That setup looks good. Yep. So Amarith's through, just got to make way to the boss now. And A-Rod up to 5 crystals. And now for the big moment of the race. Will A-Rod go back in for the Dark Maze?
Yeah, because this may or may not be optional, honestly. This could be a situation where the book is hiding somewhere else and everything is fine. And this could be a situation where the book is hiding in Ganon's tower and everything is not fine. But we are going to get to see it, thank goodness.
Yeah. With that lamp, gonna be able to see our way through the dark as well, so shouldn't run into any real surprises like what A-Rod ran into immediately before getting the lamp last time he was in the Dark Maze.
On the plus side, we will get to see what enemies are actually in here and we're giving him so much trouble.
Yeah, I still like the Igor prediction. I think that one does make sense. A-Rod's got the mirror and is gone. Desert and Turtle Rock's all that's left.
Yep, and we are grabbing Desert first, because hey, there are boots over here.
Yep, those go fast boots. And then you can save yourself a mountain climb by doing it this way. Yeah, and A-Rod not even leaving anything to chance on the boots, like just grabbing those boots before even going into the dungeon.
Yeah, it's going to save you time either way. You really might as well.
Yeah, the boots are like the one item that always applies to, but it's just Quake. We don't need that. So going to be either big key or small key in the chest here, and if it is the small key, then the big key is over on the right. And we've got the longest possible go mode desert. That's a bit unfortunate. And what even is this kill room, honestly?
I mean, it's about par for the course for the seed that just keeps on giving.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. There's the big key, so just got a land mole. Well, I say a land molas fight. We have not seen a land molas this seed, so it could very easily be one. But a boss fight. The only thing we know it's not going to be is Argus. Also, I don't think it was mentioned before, but all those anti-fairies on the right side in the room right before Cold Stare, like, I'm not seeing things with those, right? They're there?
Oh yeah, they're there.
The only saving grace there is that they don't come loose unless you pull the rock. And Amarith was going for fighter sword spin strats. Got bopped around on the first one a bit and decided to just go for the menu. So here's a blind. This blind fight starts. You can't use the same script you use for the vanilla. There is a script, but hardly anybody bothers to learn it because of the weird situation, and I don't know it myself. So A-Rod basically just having to ad-lib this fight, but it's down.
To be fair, it didn't look like A-Rod was fully expecting that. Got a little bit blindsided there.
Sure. Chat's asking what bosses we have yet to see. We have seen a Moldorm. That was in the Palace of Darkness. But Landmolus, Trinex, Vitreous. We have not seen a Mothula yet either. Nor have we seen a Coldsair. So those 5 bosses still remain.
Yeah, pretty much the only thing we're guaranteed at this point is that we're not going to see an Argus.
Yep. It's the only thing we've seen twice, so it's the only thing off the table. And honestly, with the equipment we have, it may be the slowest boss fight anyways. A-Rod gets the hook speed off of the stairs headed up there, then plays the hammer slow to avoid jumping off. Good safe strats there.
Yeah, the last thing you want to do is completely negate the couple seconds you'd save by hopping right off the ledge and having to go back around again.
Yep. And actually, here's Amarith going for the same Turtle Rock play as A-Rod. So gonna get some sync going through here, the only real difference being that Amarith is a flute and 2 crystals behind, while A-Rod's in go mode looking for a 7th crystal. So A-Rod significantly ahead of the race at this point.
Yeah, and that's something that can very easily happen in Randomizer. Between all the weird rooms that you run into and potential double or triple dips based upon what bosses are where, and then just having to deal with killing things in odd spots for bosses and enemies, it can get out of hand quickly.
Yeah. And that's the sort of thing, like, we even saw it about 40 seconds into this seed with double chain chomps in the Uncle Tunnel. I think that really set the tone here. But credit to A-Rod, handled it really well. Gonna finish with a semi-respectable time on this seed, I believe. Probably in the 155 to 2 hour range, mostly depending on how the big key in Ganon's Tower goes.
And Turtle Rock, at least thus far, being really friendly in terms of key placements.
Yeah, let's see one more small key in this chest, and then we won't have to check anything else. Not to be, though. So, gonna have to go and steal the key off whatever random mob has it in this next room. and then continued off to the races. Probably going to check the big chest just because that's reasonable to try to get a small key out of there. Is that the... oh, no, it's just a Stalfos. I thought it may have been a floating head at first, which that would have been real tragic.
I feel like there was enough tragedy in that room, if we're being perfectly honest. That was not a terribly friendly set of enemies.
Rare is the room that is made worse by taking away anti-fairies. But that room was bad. Okay, A-Rod gonna skip the big chest. Looking for a key either in the Crystal Roller room or on Laser Bridge. And if by some sheer chance the small keys in this dungeon are in the lava chest and in the big chest, then that's unfortunate.
Oh, that could have been a disaster.
If there's no key on Amarith's side, but there is. So there's a 4 in 5 chance that A-Rod is fine. And a 1 in 5 that we are getting a lot of backtracking. As what the heck is that fire snake? Also, just to recap for chat a little bit, the flute was at Hammer Pegs with a hammer in the Palace of Darkness. So, okay, A-Rod gets bailed out. There is a key on the Laser Bridge. 4 and 5 pays out. But, yeah. Mitts, as the Dark World access, were relatively early this seed. Oh, flute was Magic Bat, not Hammer Pegs, excuse me. Something was Hammer Pegs, though. I'm trying to remember what it was. Oh, Mushroom was Hammer Pegs, and that led to nothing. I am sorry. But, yeah. The Magic Bat and both the Mirror and the Hammer were in Palace of Darkness. Mirror in the Dark Maze, Hammer in the first chest. So, just no good way to get that flute. And that's sort of why Amarith still doesn't have it. Speaking of Amarith, using bombs to down the Hinox there in the 1 heart Mimic Cave. 2 heart now.
Alright, so we don't have much time, but we do like to play a game. 22 chests and GT could contain the big key. Which one is it going to be?
Well, you know that I have an affinity for the number 10, which can be in various places depending on how the routing goes.
Fair point. I think I'm going to play it somewhat nice today. Let's go 6.
6 would be in either the Stalfos room or the Compass room, depending on how the routing goes. Not terrible. Amarith did find red mail in the Mimic Cave. That's another nice safety to have, but doesn't help against fixed damage like that spike.
And that spike is not in a friendly spot. That's literally just an, okay, I'm going to take a heart of damage from you right now. Thank you.
Yep. You can't really react to it because it's as soon as you enter the room. And you can't use the usual dash strat to get through because it blocks you. Just not fun.
Alright, so we have a right side strat here from A-Rod. We will see how this works out in the Compass room.
A nice offset on that fire rod there to kill those Gibdos from out of nowhere. That's just another application of the same glitch that results in the spooky action glitch in Misery Mire, but obviously very difficult to actually set up and account for on the fly, so you take it when you get it. And that is 6 chests down with no big key.
Well, my guess has died. Please avenge it, Reg.
Well, chest number 10 will be the third chest in the Stalfos room with this routing, as the torch is going to be number 7. And wrong key, thanks game. Of course. As per usual, since we're playing Randomizer, I call it the Stalfos room, and it's not going to be Stalfos in here. Many Moldarms aren't significantly worse from an ease to kill perspective, though. Chest 10, again, wrong key, and chest 11 is a mirror shield.
Yep, so at this point we are halfway through our 22 checks. Ha, that's a terrible place to put a spike.
Yeah, that's just... why?
Because we can, Reg, because we can.
Well, got the chest at least. Amarith's got the land molas down for, what's that, a 5th crystal. A-Rod does miss the blue boomerang strat. He's throwing it from too far up. That actually did work, though. So, very good vanilla-style strat there. Now he's going to use that, get iframes, and just ignore all the enemies.
Alright, and with that, here comes Rando Room, so called because, well, you only come in here when we're playing Randomizer.
Yeah, it's a very junk-oriented refill room in vanilla. Anyways, first chest in here will be number 14 for those keeping score at home. And that's chest number 16 for the big key. And A-Rod is off. And the winner of the guessing game today, Nelson Wells Wuku. First time winning the game, so congratulations. Amarith dipping pendant Tower of Hera. Gonna show us the Hera pot strat. Going for an unbuffered version of the setup. Well, the first part was unbuffered. Second part, very highly buffered, but the setup discovered, popularized by Dracarys. Looks like Amarith was 1 pixel off, though, and gonna just give up on it. Sit through the tile room.
Yeah, not a bad play on Amarith's side, but unfortunately not going to pay off.
I mean, it could still. The Book of Medora is still missing in action. And that would be go mode for Amarith as well.
Fair point.
But yeah, even if it does pay off in the form of the book, it's going to be a bit too little too late as far as the race goes. And yeah, if chat's actually calling it out right now, but if Amarith's go mode is not the flute, then gonna need to find that last sword somewhere. And it's not like A-Rod skipped that many checks in the crystal dungeons. Meanwhile, these Boosubu, whatever you call them in the gauntlet, giving us all sorts of frustration. But A-Rod face tanks that one just to line up a hook shot.
Yeah, Babusus are generally not dangerous at all. There's a couple situations where they can catch you off guard, but in general, they're pretty easy to predict and pretty easy to figure out. But they're not necessarily... Oh, boy.
Yeah. Oh, we knew there was at least one of them this seed. But in the fireball shooter room? Really? Also seeing the numerous graphical glitches Randomizer can cause. We saw in the previous room, and now just the floor's gone. No problem.
I mean, honestly, wouldn't that be a heck of a way to die, though? Could you imagine going in there with one heart and, like, just kind of pausing to, I don't know, maybe powder a vanilla anti-fairy there and just getting an ice ball to the face?
Don't even think about that. Okay, Samaria one-shot kills 2 of these enemies. The third is a lot less friendly in that regard. Honestly, at this point, if I were A-Rod, I'd just be pulling out the arrows. Or the sword. And hey, we've got our first Vitreous of the Seed over in Moldworm's room.
Yeah, so it seems like my early call may have been a Moldworm off.
Yeah, Amarith going with cape strats, but really with the fighter sword there is no good one. And good decision to get out of the way of that pit just before the magic expired. Yeah, with only 3 hearts, even on red mail, I don't think Amarith can take more than 2 hits here.
Yeah, I believe you are correct. That's not a friendly place for an Igor.
Yeah, there are very few enemies that can make this room really slow or challenging. Igors are one of them. So that's just unlucky. Well, Amarith did find the second sword. And a red pendant. Unfortunately, there was no Book of Medora, so Amarith is still on the hunt for that flute or book.
Alright, meanwhile, A-Rod is gradually getting through here. Thankfully, that fire bar is going the other way, so he didn't instantly take heat to the face there. And we have a vanilla Moldworm too.
Definitely worse bosses to put on this platform.
Yep, that also gives us the second of our... Oh, that was close. Of our duplicated bosses, if my count is correct.
Yep. Double Argus earlier. Now this was the second Moldworm. The third duplicated one is probably at Ice Armos, even though it doesn't really have to be.
Wow. Goodness gracious, that stupid crystal roller.
Yeah, that's borderline Kaizo for you. On Amarith's side, we are headed to Kakariko Village. I thought this might be a straight check at the bat, but going to the Dark World first. This could be like Magic Bat into mirror spots, like the Graveyard Ledge.
Yep, good call on your side. I'm almost positive that's what we were going to get.
Yeah, I think A-Rod's on 5 hits of Agatu, so just 1 more? Nope, 2 more, but still gets him down, same cycle. And we're on to Ganon on A-Rod's side.
Alright, so as we drop in, Ganon giving us some facts about land slugs. So just in case you guys wanted to know, there you go. I think A-Rod is more concerned about facts on not taking hits from that trident, as we only have 3.5 hearts left.
Yeah, Gets to phase 2 real easy though, and one more double spin is out of it. But gonna need the cape or the potion to get out of this alive. A lot of iframes from that hookshot. Amarith is in the magic bat cutscene, so that's going to be go mode for Amarith very shortly here, as A-Rod's into phase 3.
Ganondorf showing us that he's personally a bit of a fan of procrastination. We're getting quite a few teleports here. Hopefully we'll settle down for the last one. There we go. Not too bad.
Yeah, all good. Now, get one stun here. That'll be 1 silver. Assuming he doesn't... I don't think that one counted. So that's still 0. That's 1, though. And here's going to be number 2. And this should be a double, I think. Except he doesn't go for it.
I think that was a situation based upon the running around there for a second. I think A-Rod thought that first one counted. To be fair, I've never seen it before, so I didn't know that it didn't count, but it doesn't.
Yeah, the only reason I could tell was the arrow was still sticking out of him when he turned blue again. That is 4 arrows. A-Rod's just gonna cross the bridge here. Finish in first place with a time of 2 hours, 4 minutes, 45 seconds. So that's GG's to A-Rod, and see if we can get him in here to talk about it.
Yeah, honestly, a really good time. That seed was not friendly in terms of some item placements, and was very not friendly in terms of where it put certain enemies.
Hello, A-Rod. GG.
Thanks a lot.
So, cool seed, right?
Oh my god. I love the fact that the seed ended with, I promise the next one will be better.
I mean, it can't exactly be worse, can it?
Reg, don't say... Reg, no, why'd you say that?
It can always be worse, but oh gosh.
This seed won't have fun things like... Well, this seed it did have, but next seed will not have fun things like Chain Chomp and Uncle Tunnel.
Yeah, for sure not. And instant kill there. Okay, it starts in Lionels everywhere in Light World, and that was a lot of fun.
Hammer first chest and pod was also delightful.
Yeah, that one as well. All the swords very late. One in Mire Shed, one in Mire, and one on Purple Chest.
Yeah, and the 4th one we actually did find was on... What was that in the Moldorm room? A Vitreous?
Yeah, I think I saw
yes.
Vitreous on Amarith's screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they were late. I was running around. I must be so late.
Yeah. Also, just for my own knowledge, are you aware that the Ice Rod works against the Armos Knights?
I was not aware that it worked.
Well, now you know for next time.
I will certainly use it next time. It's a bit more quick, I presume, than 48 shots of boomerang for each one.
Yeah, it's the same as the Fire Rod, except I don't think it can splash.
Okay.
I'll tell you what, though, those shots weren't too bad. You ended up getting a hook shot for it.
Yeah, while I was doing it, it's not very difficult. It's just boring and very long. And if there's nothing there, I lost so much time. It's so quick to come back here. And then I saw the hook shot and oh, that was worth it.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. One bow was logically behind that hook shot too, I believe. Although the second one was not.
I must say that seed brought me so much everywhere that I don't remember the logic at all. I'm just... At some point I was just, okay, what can I do still?
The logic, and I use this term very loosely at this point, was get your Dark World access and take the very long walk to Pod. That was about it.
To get the hammer and then go in ice and get the lamp and then everything. But with the order I did things, I was okay. What came before what? I wasn't sure.
Yeah, can't blame you for that, especially because the way the seed actually played out, even though it's where the items were, it very heavily disincentivized taking that walk over to Pod.
Yeah.
Well, on the bright side, Amarith has got 6 crystals now. Is in go mode, just needs to flute over to desert and clear that out. And then it'll be Ganon's tower. But yeah, it's just a lot of really silly things stacked together this seed. Just between how late Pod wound up being for both of you, and a lot of really silly enemy placements.
Yeah. And I was so... let's say I was a bit angry when I discovered that the mirror was in the chest I died at, because of that flying enemy that I could not kill with bombos.
Yeah, so that was just the flying enemy then? We were trying to figure out what it was, and the stream had a bit of a lag spike when you were actually in the Dark Maze the second time, so we couldn't tell for sure.
Yeah, it was a flying enemy. One of these that don't send bombs, but still.
Okay, I'll have to keep in mind that apparently medallions don't do anything to them. So I actually didn't know that myself.
I didn't know it, but I was, okay, there's something killing me, I'm trying to slash, I didn't kill it, and I died there. I was, okay. But I could have got my go mode way earlier with that mirror. But at the same time, it would have opened Swamp, and I wasn't in go mode at that point, so...
Nope. Although, really, both of the items to get to the magic bat, which would have been your go mode in that situation, were in Pod.
Yeah.
So there was no getting your go mode inside Palace of Darkness this seed.
Yeah.
So overall, what did you think of this seed? Obviously a bit trolly, but, you know, overall it didn't seem as bad as it could have been, just close.
Yeah, so it wasn't... I was glad of the boss placements. I never stumbled across a Trinex at the end of a dungeon that I was, okay, I didn't have this stuff, even though we got Ice Rod really early. So, and I didn't die too much, so I was glad of that as well. So yeah, it was just the placement of the items was a bit trolly, but the rest was... it was fair.
I feel like, in particular, you know, usually a really late lamp, something on, I don't know, let's say the Ice Palace boss, for instance, isn't a necessarily terrible thing, because, you know, the vast majority of people who run this game on any sort of competitive level know how to do the vast majority of the dark rooms. You know, Dark Aghanim might trip the occasional person up, but in general, it's business as usual. But when you throw Randomizer in there, it's suddenly slightly less business as usual, and that's basically what happened today.
Yeah, that's why I made a lot of one-off checks at some point. The lamp is somewhere there. I know that I died in Eastern from I don't know which enemy, and I died in Pod of I don't know which enemy at that point, so I will need the lamp because I don't know what killed me. So I was pretty much looking for the lamp at that point. I was, okay, I have 4 checks in logic, and almost everything else is blocked by the lamp.
Well, in that case, it was pretty good to just stumble upon it on a crystal boss. Not possible to miss it, at least.
Yeah.
Anyways, I am glancing down the schedule for the league. Does your team have its other match scheduled this week? Or do you know what that's going to be?
I don't know. I don't think it's scheduled. It's Ryweg versus Obo, I think, in the Swedish rubber. But
right.
I think they're still scheduling it.
Alright. That's something to keep an eye out for then.
Yeah, Obo Gem. I was like, I'm missing a part of the name. But yeah, they're still scheduling.
Okay. Yes, while we were talking a bit, Amarith did get the 7th crystal out of Desert Palace. Just gotta climb Ganon's tower and get all the way up to Ganon and so on. Should be finished in reasonably short order, although that Ganon's tower key wasn't great either. That was what... Was that Bob's chest, or was it just before it? In the
It
rando
was
room?
in the rando room. The chest upper right, I think.
Right, yeah, that's correct. I just needed to piece it back together in my head.
Because I remember not opening the last check saying, man, I don't need anything else.
Yeah, like, you could have maybe found a sword or a mail at that point, but you didn't need either. You had it all well in hand by that point.
I know that I still had potions and silvers and tempered.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that, by and large, like outside of the gauntlet, by the time you get to GT, you're done with all the terrible stuff. Usually, the time that Randomizer gets you is in those rooms beforehand, where you'll have 6 or 7 enemies, like the back of Escape or dark rooms in Eastern and the like. That's when it really shines.
Yeah. Because actually, the gauntlet was kind of fun. The shadows are a bit annoying, but nothing was very hard there.
Yeah, nothing difficult, but a lot real slow.
Yeah.
And that's by and large a good strategy to take towards Randomizer. You know, like, there are going to be rooms that are going to get you, so you just have to take your time, keep everything in front of you, and try not to rush into anything too hard. So, looking ahead, we do have a couple of our more interesting weeks coming up. Are you going to be racing either of those? Cross Keys or Mystery Seed?
I'm supposed to raise a cross key, not the mystery. So Rywek and Ninban will raise a mystery, and Ninban and I will raise a cross key.
Awesome. Are you looking forward to that? I know people tend to either fully hate those or really enjoy them. Where do you sit on that gradient?
So it's very funny because I played the league last time, and it was, I think, my 3rd cross key seed. I was very dreading it, and since then I learned to love them. So now I'm expecting this week to be very enjoyable.
I'm glad somebody in this voice call loves them, because my brain does not get along with Entrance Shuffle, and from what I recall, Hammers doesn't either. Yeah,
I've tried even the more simple entrance shuffle. Well, you know, a full entrance shuffle where all the doors are shuffled, and it is very difficult to wrap my head around. Not to mention all the extra entrances and stuff you have to keep in mind that you can generally just ignore in Randomizer. So it's a lot of stuff to keep afloat, and I am not personally a fan. So kudos to you for being able to do it. In addition to it being cross-world, which that can sometimes be fun. And key sanity, because, you know, what entrance shuffle needs is a little more key sanity.
Yeah, well, some like it, some don't. But
Yeah,
we should have an insanity.
yeah, I can definitely understand how Key Sanity gets along really well with Ancient Shuffle, but like I said, brain does not handle shuffled entrances.
Yeah, it's just all the more power to the people who can do it. So kudos to you for being able to.
Yeah.
Thanks. All you need is a good map tracker. Take good notes. That's it.
Yeah. If I were playing the Cross Keys week, I would have to do that, and then I'd just go really slow. Anyways, Amarith grabbing the Ganon's Tower Big Key out of what turns out to be the 4th chest in Randomizer room this time, and just gotta make the way up.
Yep, so I believe we have a Cold Stare and a Moldorm waiting up there. Not going to have silvers, unfortunately, so that's going to make Ganon a little more arduous than it was for A-Rod here. Speaking of which, what did you think of that silver hit that didn't quite count?
I don't even remember where were the silvers.
Well, your silvers were on the mushroom, which the
Oh.
mushroom was at the hammer pegs.
Oh yeah, right. I was
But-
just glad to see them, but
But yeah, you had that fun little arrow that stuck in Ganon's side and just didn't hurt.
yeah, I didn't know it would do that, so I'll be more aware of not trying to do torch glitch when I'm doing that.
It's just another classic case of game can't do two things at once.
Apparently,
Like I think that what happened there was Ganon went back invulnerable the same frame you hit him.
that might have happened. So that's why I didn't attempt the double. I'm done. No, okay, one didn't count. That's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a bit unfortunate, but when you think you're done and you don't need to set it up, you lose time by setting it up. And yeah. Oh well. That's life for you.
Meanwhile, Amarith making pretty good work of this gauntlet here. The Babusus are a bit annoying, but still keeping track of where they are and taking out as many as they can in as few cycles as possible.
Yeah. When you've got to wait for them to spawn, it's really annoying, and it just slows down your game significantly. But that is a gauntlet down for Amarith. Time for Cold Stare.
Yep, and thankfully with half magic, there is plenty of magic left to go ahead and get this out of the way. And, oh, a little early on the spin there.
Yeah, that's a mistake that you see a lot more often than you feel like you should, but I don't know. Even I've not found a good setup for that timing, and I miss it semi-frequently. But able to round them all back up, make relatively quick work all considered. I'm relying on muscle memory Samaria strats, but it doesn't kill the red horsehead, whatever you call it, in one hit.
Yep, those red Zizaks require Tempered Sword, which is always fun.
Yeah, and then those red Baris split into two when you hit them. And the two small ones have really, really silly hitboxes, so the whole thing is slow. And Red Igor in this room continues the trend of making things slow.
Pretty well done, though. Didn't have a whole lot of time to get that timing correct and managed to do so, so kudos to that.
Yep. Now this room is actually a little bit easier than vanilla because there's only one floating spark.
Yep. Amarith hoping for a sword upgrade here or a silvers, and unfortunately not going to get either, as we know where both of those are by now.
Yep. Could hope for a clutch health refill, but there is that bunny beam at least, plus the heart under the pot. So, yeah. An arrow refill that does no good without silvers at this point. Yeah, there's one spin. There's a dash. Mold Arm 2 down. Just Aga 2 and Ganon left for Amarith.
And the top of GT being really friendly with those big 20s.
I think half of them were vanilla. In fact, I know half of them were vanilla if you round down. Yeah, sorry, I can't remember what's vanilla in the Elmasaur room.
It's okay, I cannot recall either. I want to say it's bombs and arrows, just because that would be the kind of symmetry that this game generally goes for, but I might be completely wrong on that.
Yeah, I think bombs in one of them, just to give you a guaranteed refill before having to blow that wall open. Amarith actually saved a cycle on Aga 2 relative to AROD there. That was well done.
Yep, and off we go to fight the piggy. Randomizer giving us one last little amusing sprite here.
Yep. Randomizer sprites. We didn't actually see too many of them this seed, but they are a staple of the mode for sure. Amarith got the one cycle phase 1, so that's another time save over AROD's endgame actually. And yeah, got the 1-in-1. Well done.
Yeah, that is very, very not easy to do, especially 2 hours and 26 minutes into a seed. The seed has not been kind at all.
Yeah, not at all. And at a certain point, it just starts grinding on you. So being able to keep focused towards the end like this is a good sign.
Going for that sub 230 dream right now, which given the way this seed was, not a bad mark to go for.
Yeah, absolutely not. Unfortunately, did not find those arrows. Did find the mushroom, just never turned it in. So gotta get 12 spins here against Ganon. There's one.
Yeah, and I'm really hoping we don't find another fire bat to the face, because I'm pretty sure that's going to be GG if we do, and not in the way that we're hoping.
I think it's fine on red mail with 2 hearts.
Well, I can always hope that we don't have to find out.
Yeah, that would be for the best. Chat's mentioning a fairy. I can't remember. Amarith's been through a couple. Doesn't look like it. That was a quick cycle through the bottles and didn't see one. Switching over to the fire rod here, may be able to line up it. I don't think this. Yeah, that wouldn't have been a triple.
Not a big deal. I think we only got a couple more spins to go with anyways. shouldn't really matter in the long run here.
Yeah. Fire rod triples are tricky. If you try to rush them too much, you can definitely wind up either just outright missing or taking a bat to the face and falling off. And that wouldn't be good at this point.
Just a little late on these spins. Not quite getting in place in time, giving that fire bat a little too much respect. There we go.
Yeah. The timing was good, just a few pixels too far away. But regardless, that's 12 spins. That's going to be GG for Amarith. Just got to cross the bridge once this fanfare finishes, and that's going to be Amarith finishing in second place at a time of 2 hours, 28 minutes, and 41 seconds.
Whew. Get your GGs in chat. That is a well-deserved set of GGs that we need to get in chat for Amarith, because that seed, not so much on the fun side.
Yes, and we do have Amarith in here with us now. GG.
GG. Burn the seed.
Big GG.
Don't let anyone ever see it again.
Oh, it
Yeah.
wasn't that bad.
That wasn't that bad if you just minded, oh yeah, I should just go to pod because everything's always in pod, isn't it?
Especially with your Dark World access being literally the polar opposite end of Hyrule. Let's go ahead and go straight to pod for that hammer, yeah?
Yeah, expletives may have been said at that first chest of pod.
I mean, so I know it's not as big of a deal, especially in general, but for Randomizer, it's a bit more important. How did that lamp on the Ice Palace boss feel?
I was just like, alright, I guess that's a spot for it to be.
Yeah, because you had done Palace of Darkness at that point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you had the hard dark rooms all down already.
I'm just glad we didn't have to go to Misery Mire in the dark. I hate that dark room.
Yeah, A-Rod actually went in, but both items were in the front, including that one sword that I saw you guys discuss in IRC. So no need to actually visit the dark there.
Yeah. Oh, so I'm not 100% sure if either of you could be able to confirm that thing that happened in Skull Woods around 38 minutes or so. Was that exploration glitch?
I believe it was. Regardless, it happened because you got hit by that flying enemy on the same frame you transitioned.
That's what I figured.
So it was some form of door glitch. It may have been essentially EG. I'm not especially well versed in the super major glitches of the game, but it was functionally the same thing.
I was confused until I wound up like in that weird out of bounds room. Then I was like, oh, I have to save and quit. This isn't good.
Yeah, game can't do two things at once.
Yeah, so keeping it as uplifting and friendly as you can. What were your thoughts on the seed?
Burn it with fire. And that's about as friendly as I'll get.
Yeah. Very friendly and uplifting purification method. Fire is very good for that.
It felt good for the first, hour or so, and then, okay, where's, hammer or, any kind of, normal weaponry or anything. Also, with, fire and ice rod, really super early, I was like, okay, where's Trinex? Let's get him out of the way.
Then we didn't actually see one at all this seed.
I'm betting it was probably in, Misery Mire.
Had to be one between Mire and Swamp. Those are the only two bosses. Well, could have been Ice Armos as well.
Oh, don't even joke about that.
I mean, there's already ice on the floor in the Trinex fight if you're slow at it. What's adding a little more gonna do?
Just some double ice, why not?
Yeah, we saw most of the bosses this seed. We only saw 2 of the 3 duplicates, so
I think the most frustrating and disappointing though was seeing that cold stare in the moth room. It was just like, oh, this is no.
Yeah, 'cause you could have had a hook shot at that point if you did Thieves Town first instead, but just didn't play out that way, and yeah, unfortunate.
And then on top of that, fighter sword, cold stare in the moth room on green mail. I still don't want to think about it.
The good news about the moth room is that a lot of non-mothula bosses are vulnerable to spikes. A-Rod actually had a very nice kill on account of that.
I'll have to go back and check it out and see what they did.
It was just... I think they were trying to line up fire rod shots. A-Rod, you can correct me if I'm wrong. You're trying to line up fire rod shots, and you wound up hitting one horizontal in each direction into the spikes.
Yeah, that's basically what happened. I just fired him in the wall, it killed him, and was, okay, I'm done.
Yeah. Also, same question I asked A-Rod earlier, but the Armos Knights. Are you aware that the Ice Rod does damage?
I think I knew at one point and forgot, and you're now reminding me, and I'm like, oh yes, that's a thing. I also know that I'm pretty sure I had the sword at the time, and like the red boomerang, and I was just like, I'll come back when I can kill this in faster than 5 minutes.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that greatly delayed your hook shot, but
Yeah.
sometimes that's just rando and it's silly. Anyways, do we have any last thoughts anybody wants to get off their chest?
Just a big GG, and thanks to both of you for commanding this race, and to Dark Diplomat for tracking it. And my last word would be the game cannot do two things at the same time, apparently.
Absolutely not. And that's one thing we didn't do enough this race. We did not shout out Dark Diplomat enough. Did a great job with the tracker, keeping everybody lit up, and honestly, it's kind of a disappointment that the Speed Gaming tracker doesn't support telling us what boss was in what dungeon, but even then, Dark Diplomat was in chat keeping people informed on that, so big shout outs. Thanks, man.
Yeah, you beat me to it there. I was going to say the same thing. But yeah, so shout outs to both our runners. Definitely give them a follow. This seed put them both through the ringer. They survived it. And they completed it, and Ganon's rule is over for now. So shout outs to both of them. Again, yeah, shout outs to Dark Diplomat, our tracker, keeping everything lit up. It's something that I am absolutely terrible at, so kudos to anyone who can do it. And shout outs to Meko Regaro. It's always fun common with you, man.
Yep, always a blast working with you. And sometimes the seed's just like this. But yeah. In addition to all the people involved, we've got the Speed Gaming and Speed Gaming 2 through 6 channels. We've got the ALTTPR League. That's twitch.tv/the ALTTPR League. And a second channel with the number 2 on the end of that. Follow both of those as well if you can't get enough of the league action. And just going down the schedule real quick. We've got Ovidus Naso versus Kyong. I think that's starting on Speed Gaming 3 soon, but I think it got slightly delayed. We've got Drunk Future Self versus Flip Heel starting in about 20 minutes on the ALTTPR League 2. And we've got Slowpoke versus Fear Agent on the main Speed Gaming channel. Oh, sorry, that race is actually tomorrow at about noon Eastern. So something to pick up with in the morning for you guys. But
Yep. And we are still doing 64 races a week, so keep an eye on that schedule, and you will get more rando than you know what to do with.
absolutely. And I guess with that said, I've been Reg. I've been joined by Hammer. The racers were A-Rod and Amarith. The tracker was Dark Diplomat. Fantastic showing all around, especially with what nonsense this seed was. And I'll leave the last word to you, Hammer.
Yeah. Definitely follow those channels. Get your fix of rando. And the thing I'm leaving with today is that I made Reg laugh, and I'm pretty sure that's the first time that's ever happened. So have a good night, everyone.